The wedding hall fell silent as Lim Woo-jin lifted the veil from his bride's face for the first time. His hand froze mid-air, breath caught in his throat. This wasn't possible. The woman standing before him, the bride no one wanted, the woman he'd agreed to marry sight unseen as part of a business arrangement, was her. The face that had haunted his dreams for 3 years. The woman he'd searched for across 2 continents. The one who'd saved his life and disappeared like smoke before he could even learn her name. His carefully controlled expression cracked as their eyes met, and he saw the exact moment she recognized him too. Her dark eyes widened, lips parting in shock. The delicate bouquet trembled in her hands. Around them, 200 guests waited for him to complete the ceremony, unaware that the most powerful man in LA's Korean underworld had just been brought to his knees by the sight of a woman the world had rejected. His voice, when it finally came, was barely a whisper meant only for her. "It's you." 3 months earlier, Naomi Hayes had learned that humiliation had a taste, bitter, metallic, like pennies dissolving on your tongue. She'd been tasting it for 6 months now, ever since Marcus had left her standing at the altar, in front of 300 people. His text message, the only explanation she'd received: "Can't do this. Sorry." The wedding planning office where she now worked felt like a special kind of torture, a daily reminder of the happiest day that never happened. She spent her days helping blushing brides choose between ivory and champagne linens, while her own unused wedding dress still hung in her closet, tags attached, a $5,000 monument to her failure. "Naomi, I need you to handle the Parkside consultation," her boss Melissa called out, barely looking up from her computer. "The difficult client I mentioned, he's here." Naomi straightened her simple black dress, professional, forgettable, safe, and grabbed her tablet. Difficult clients were her specialty now. After being left at the altar, very little rattled her anymore. She'd survived the worst day of her life in front of everyone she knew. What could a demanding groom possibly do to her? The consultation room door opened, and Naomi's carefully constructed composure cracked. The man who stood as she entered wasn't just handsome, he was devastating. Tall with sharp features that could have been carved from stone, dark eyes that seemed to see through every defense she'd built. His black suit was clearly custom-made, tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and a lean, powerful frame. But it was the way he carried himself that truly caught her attention, the quiet authority of someone who expected the world to bend to his will and was rarely disappointed. "Mr. Lim," she said, proud that her voice remained steady, "I'm Naomi Hayes. I'll be coordinating your wedding arrangements." Those dark eyes studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. "Ms. Hayes." His voice was deep, accent barely noticeable, but adding an exotic edge to his words. "I was told you're the best at handling complicated situations." That's one way to put it. She managed a professional smile and gestured to the chair across from her. "Please sit. Let's discuss your vision for the ceremony." He didn't sit. Instead, he moved to the window overlooking downtown Los Angeles, hands clasped behind his back. The posture was military straight, controlled, but something in the set of his shoulders suggested coiled tension. "I don't have a vision," he said bluntly. "This is a business arrangement, not a love match. I need a wedding that looks legitimate, that satisfies certain traditional expectations. Beyond that, the details are irrelevant." Naomi had heard similar sentiments before, usually from wealthy clients entering marriages of convenience, but never stated so coldly. "I see. And the bride? Does she share your practical approach?" "There is no bride yet." He turned to face her, and something flickered in those dark eyes. "That's part of the complication." She blinked. "I'm sorry. You want to plan a wedding without a bride?" "I want to plan a wedding for a bride I haven't met." He moved back to the table, finally sitting, and pulled out a slim folder. "My family has arranged a match. The woman arrives from Korea in 2 months. The wedding will happen 1 month after that. Everything must be perfect, traditional, beyond reproach." Naomi opened the folder. Inside was a single photograph of a young Korean woman, pretty in a delicate way, smiling shyly at the camera. Attached was a brief biography. 23 years old, university educated, from a respected family in Seoul. "This is an arranged marriage," Naomi said carefully. Does she know? She knows exactly what this is. His tone discouraged further questions. Her family and mine have been in business together for 3 generations. This union solidifies important ties. She'll want for nothing, and I'll treat her with respect. That's more than many love marriages offer. There was something in his voice, not quite bitterness, but close. Resignation, perhaps. The tone of a man who'd stopped believing in fairy tales long ago. Naomi knew that feeling intimately. All right, she said, clicking open her tablet. Let's start with basics. How many guests? 200. Mix of Korean and American communities. The ceremony must honor both traditions. Venue preference? The Parkside Estate. I've already secured it. Naomi's eyebrows rose. The Parkside Estate was the most exclusive venue in Southern California, with a 2-year waiting list. That's impressive. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Money and influence open many doors, Miss Hayes. They spent the next hour discussing details. Flowers, music, catering, the intricate balance of Korean and Western traditions. Naomi found herself fascinated despite her determination to remain professional. Lim Woo-jin was exacting but not unreasonable, decisive but willing to hear her suggestions. He clearly wanted this wedding to be perfect, even if the marriage itself was nothing but a business transaction. One more thing, he said as their consultation ended. Discretion is essential. My business dealings require a certain level of privacy. Nothing about this arrangement leaves this office. Of course. Client confidentiality is... I'm not talking about professional discretion, Ms. Hayes. His eyes locked with hers, and she felt the full weight of his intensity. I'm talking about absolute silence. No gossip with co-workers, no casual mentions to friends. This wedding and everything connected to it remains completely confidential. Do you understand? There was something almost threatening in his tone, though he hadn't raised his voice. Naomi felt a chill run down her spine, but she met his gaze steadily. I understand perfectly, Mr. Lim. Your privacy will be protected. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good, I'll be in touch. He stood to leave, and Naomi found herself reluctantly admiring the way he moved. Graceful despite his size, purposeful, commanding. At the door he paused. Ms. Hayes, I was sorry to hear about your own wedding. She froze. Excuse me? Your boss mentioned it when I asked for someone experienced with difficult situations. She said you understood disappointment. His expression was unreadable. I apologize if that was inappropriate. Heat flooded Naomi's cheeks, embarrassment mixed with anger. Of course, Melissa had told him. Her humiliation was apparently excellent marketing material. It's fine, she said stiffly. Ancient history. Is it? He tilted his head slightly, studying her with that unnerving intensity. You're still wearing the engagement ring on a chain around your neck. Hidden. But there. Naomi's hand flew to her throat, where the thin gold chain disappeared beneath her collar. How had he noticed that? She hadn't even realized it was visible. That's none of your business, Mr. Lim. You're right. Forgive me. But he didn't sound particularly apologetic. I'll see you next week for the menu tasting. He left, and Naomi released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She touched the ring beneath her dress, Marcus's ring, the one she couldn't quite bring herself to throw away or sell, the one she wore hidden against her heart like a hair shirt, a constant reminder of her failure. Why had she kept it? Pride, maybe, or stubbornness, or the small pathetic part of her that still couldn't quite believe he'd really left her standing there. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for your discretion, Miss Hayes. I look forward to working with you. LWJ. She stared at the message, unease prickling down her spine. How had he gotten her personal number? She'd only given him her work contact, but that unease was complicated by something else, something she absolutely refused to acknowledge, because Lim Woo-jin, with his cold arranged marriage and his dangerous intensity, had looked at her like she was visible, like she mattered, like she was something more than the pathetic woman left at the altar. And God help her, some broken part of her had responded to that attention, like a flower turning toward the sun. The next 2 weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Lim Woo-jin proved to be the most demanding and attentive client Naomi had ever worked with. He had opinions about everything. The specific shade of pink for the peonies, the exact placement of each table. the precise wording of the multilingual invitations, but he also listened when she pushed back, respected her expertise, and occasionally surprised her with his thoughtfulness. "The bride's family will be traveling far," he said during one meeting. "Ensure their hotel accommodations are the best available. Spare no expense on their comfort." "That's very considerate," Naomi said, making notes. "It's practical. They're giving me their daughter. The least I can do is treat them well. Always practical, always transactional. Never a hint of emotion beyond cool calculation. And yet, why are you really doing this?" The question escaped before Naomi could stop it. Arranged marriage isn't exactly common anymore, even in traditional families. You clearly have the resources to do whatever you want, so why agree to marry a stranger? He looked up from the floral samples spread across the table, eyes narrowed. "That's an impertinent question, Miss Hayes. You're right, I apologize, but I'll answer it anyway." He leaned back in his chair, regarding her thoughtfully. "My father built an empire from nothing. He came to this country with empty pockets and a fierce determination to survive. Everything I have, everything I am, comes from his sacrifice. Before he died, he made me promise to honor the old ways, to strengthen the ties that helped him succeed. This marriage is me keeping that promise." There was something raw in his voice, quickly smoothed away, but present nonetheless. Grief, perhaps, or guilt. "That's a heavy burden," Naomi said softly, "giving up your own happiness for duty. Who says I would have found happiness anyway?" His smile was sharp, self-deprecating. "Perhaps I'm not built for it. Perhaps this arrangement is the best I can hope for. Partnership without the messiness of emotion, companionship without the risk of loss." Naomi understood that sentiment more than she cared to admit. After Marcus, she'd built walls so high and thick that nothing could hurt her again. Love was a fairy tale, commitment a lie people told themselves before reality came crashing down. Maybe Lim Woo-jin had the right idea. Negotiate the terms up front, remove all possibility of disappointment. "And the bride?" she asked. "What does she get from this arrangement? Security, status, freedom from financial worry, a husband who won't cheat or abuse her, who'll provide her with everything she needs. Everything except love. Love is overrated, Miss Hayes." His dark eyes found hers, held them. "I suspect you know that better than most." The words hit like a slap, true and cruel. Naomi looked away first, focusing on her tablet with unnecessary intensity. "The venue confirmed the date," she said, desperate to change the subject. "We should discuss the ceremony structure. Have dinner with me." Her head snapped up. "What?" "Dinner. Tonight. There are details better discussed outside this office." He stood, buttoning his jacket with casual grace. "I'll pick you up at 7. "Mr. Lim, I don't think that's appropriate. It's a business dinner, Miss Hayes. Don't flatter yourself." The words were harsh, but something flickered in his eyes that contradicted them. 7 o'clock. Wear something nice." He left before she could refuse, leaving Naomi staring after him with a mixture of indignation and, God help her, anticipation. At precisely 7 o'clock, a black Mercedes pulled up outside Naomi's modest apartment building. She'd changed 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress that was professional enough to maintain boundaries, but feminine enough to acknowledge this wasn't a typical business meeting. Lim Woo-jin stepped out, and Naomi's breath caught. He'd traded his business suit for dark slacks and a white dress shirt, the top buttons undone to reveal a hint of collarbone and the edge of what looked like a tattoo. Casual, but somehow more dangerous than his corporate armor. "Ms. Hayes." His eyes traveled over her in an assessment that felt physical. "You look lovely." "Thank you." She climbed into the car, hyper-aware of his proximity as he settled into the driver's seat. "Where are we going?" "A restaurant in Koreatown. The owner is a friend. Very private." The restaurant turned out to be a small, elegant establishment tucked away on a quiet street. The moment they entered, staff materialized, bowing deeply to Lim Woo-jin and ushering them to a private room in the back. "You're well known here," Naomi observed as they settled onto cushions at a low table. "I invest in many local businesses. Community support is important." He poured tea with practiced grace, the ritual somehow intimate. "But tonight isn't about business. I want to know about you." "There's nothing to know. I plan weddings. I live alone. I'm exactly as boring as I seem. You were engaged. What happened? The blunt question stole her breath. That's none of your business. Fair. Then answer this. Why do you still wear his ring? Her hand moved unconsciously to her throat. Don't lie to me, Naomi. The use of her first name sent electricity down her spine. I can see it beneath your dress. Why keep a symbol of someone who hurt you? Why do you care? Because I'm curious about the woman planning my wedding while her own ended in disaster. He leaned forward, eyes intense. Because I want to understand what makes you stay when someone else told you to go. The food arrived. Bulgogi, kimchi, banchan spread across the table in colorful abundance. But Naomi barely noticed. She was caught in Lim Woo-jin's gaze, in the unexpected intimacy of this moment. He texted me, she heard herself say. 20 minutes before the ceremony. Can't do this, sorry. That's all I got. No explanation, no warning, just nothing. He was a coward. He was practical, like you. The words came out sharper than intended. He realized marriage was a mistake and backed out before making it permanent. Smart, really. There's nothing smart about humiliating someone you claim to love, about leaving them to face everyone alone. Anger edged his